Good morning, guys, and welcome back to my channel. So, this drawing is broken up into 4 different parts. The first part being the sketching of the characters, the second part being the sketching of the background, third part is shading along with the fourth part. Mainly because I think I was shading the background at the same time I was shading the characters, so I couldn't really divvy it up that way. But nonetheless, I had so much fun drawing this thing. Fuck, every time I look at it, it makes me laugh. Just because of like this smug barbaric look at the wizard. And the wizard's just like, dude, you haven't done shit. So but yeah, and then he has like the maiden kind of hanging off of his arm as if he's accomplished something, but once you see the complete drawing, like everything's like nothing's been accomplished. Like I don't know why this barbarian is the way he is. He reminds me of like those guys who go to the gym, like a fighting gym, where you see all like the other dudes who are using like the heavy bags and who've been in fights. Like you can see that they've been in fights, right? But they're like this barbarian is the guy who's just standing around at the gym, just chit chatting with everybody. Never been in a fight in his life. So I don't know. It's just mainly because once you see the finished shade and I finally throw in details, like the barbarian has no scars on him. Like I don't know, he's just too pristine to have done something. Um, I know I really wanted to make this barbarian kind of look like Conan, just to keep it simple. Like I didn't want to clad him out in armor and stuff, um, because it's I don't know. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't overwhelming myself. I know when I start overthinking things and trying to um, put in it all these little details, I immediately lose sight of the initial idea, get frustrated, quit. So the main practices of this drawing for me were the bubble start, which I forgot to mention before. I actually learned that from a different YouTuber by the name of Will Terrell, and that has helped me out so much. Um, Both with characterizing things as well as just drawing in general. Like after once I've stopped drawing for a while, you know, st- um, doing the little bubble, coming up with something, it's just much easier to get back into things because you're not looking at a blank canvas. Um, but where was I? So that was the 2 main practices I really wanted to do was the bubble start and the fuck. What was I talking about? There's the bubble start. Oh, and keeping it simple. Mainly just so I don't get frustrated. But yeah, fucking. Uh, I also love the wizard. I think overall I love the wizard more than the barbarian. The barbarian is just, I don't know. I love the way he turned out, but there's no like. I guess it is. Yeah, it's pretty characterized compared to everything else. But it's just so used to what I'm drawing that I'm kind of over it. Um, but the wizard, on the other hand, fuck, he makes me laugh. I tried going for like a little bit of a Gandalf look, but if you look close enough, hopefully I did it right. But I gave the wizard a fake beard. I don't know why. I just I was initially not going to give him a beard. I'm like, well, no, every wizard needs a beard. So I'm like, fuck, he's getting a fake beard. Yes. It's just great. Um, but yeah, I tried to give him like I guess Sting, and then definitely like a Gandalf staff. Um, but I just love how broken from reality this wizard is. The his anatomy is so not there. Like he's got a hunchback. He has no legs from what it looks like. The legs are just all in your head, kind of thing. Like you can't see him. And he's got like a bit of a gut. He almost looks like Kirby if Kirby had a head, you know. um, but yeah, and the other thing I love is that he's standing on a rock and he's still not at eye level with the fucking barbarian who he's trying to like stare down. It's fucking hilarious to me. So, yeah, I think the only thing that I can that I, like I don't mind pointing out my mistakes because you should be able to point out your own mistakes and live with them. Is like I know I got the glasses wrong. Uh, they should be a little bit more offset, mainly so you like I can see that they're not a part of his face. Um, it looks like one of the arms, instead of sitting on his ear, is actually sitting on his cheek because it's kind of flat on. Like they should just be more protruding from his face, so it looks, you know, the way I want it to. But that's just something that I'm seeing. Um, when it came to the maiden, I really love how she turned out, but I know there's nothing really spectacular about her. The Mainly because at this point in the drawing, I was starting to get not burnt out, but I was starting to feel a little bit stressed because um, the clothing. I've never drawn medieval clothing, um, and it's something I had to learn, just because I just could not wrap my head around um, coming up with a style, you know, without looking at a reference. Like if initially I wasn't trying to look at a reference, I was just trying to go with it. It wasn't turning out. Um, so then I looked up online a few medieval clothing styles, and I mean, don't get me wrong, this is simple, um, but yeah, it just made everything a hell of a lot easier. Um, Mainly because they're always the same. It's just I don't know. Like don't get me wrong, like there's some where it's like you have your different class statuses, like aristocrat or the middle class. I don't know what they would be called in medieval times, and then you have like your serfs and whatnot who are just wearing rags. But yeah, like I know like this is no aristocrat by any means, or she's no aristocrat. I know I didn't want to give her aristocratic clothing, um, mainly because I knew it would hide the what would it do? It would hide the castle in the back, which you'll see later. Um, but yeah, I tried doing the bubble art with her, and that was just to give me a gesture. I really had no idea how she was going to turn out, but I really liked how she did turn out. The hair overall is what I love about her the most. Like I've always enjoyed drawing hair. Um, I find it really easy. I like how flowy it can get. The the thing that I wanted to practice on was trying to convey different hair colors using grayscale. I can't remember the artist who I was learning this from. It was a YouTube video. Um, but when you're drawing someone with lighter hair, like blonde, gray, white, strawberry, um, something along those lines, you just have to use a lot less detail, right? And a lot less darkness to it. Your shadows aren't going to be as thick. Sorry about the scrambling. It's a dog upstairs. Um, so, and if you have like a brunette, you're basically going to be having darker hair tones, right? And that's just going to be conveyed through a lot more detail. Um, and it's the same thing with like raven hair, right? Like there's essentially just a spectrum of tonnage that you have to use, and I'm coining that word now, tonnage. Um, but yeah, so and it's all personal feel. Like if you look at if you look at what other artists have done, how they've tried to convey it, what it looks like in reality, you'll get a better understanding of it. One of the things I would like to point out though is at this point in the game and like within the drawing, when you're just doing the line work, this is also a really good time to map out your drawing. Not just where your characters are sitting, but all the little details in your drawing. Something I really didn't do, but I wish I did. Mainly because if you look at the dude's boots in the next video, I had no idea what I actually wanted to do for those boots. I knew I wanted to give him like a knee pad, and that ultimately was going to be metal, but everything else from the knee pad down, no idea. I didn't know if I should make it like a full metal cleaver. Um, I didn't know if I should make it a full metal greave, um, or if it should just be like a leather boot. So I came up with this, you know, leatherish boot with just these rectangles kind of overlapping it to give it some sort of detail. And by God, I still have no idea what those rectangles are. Um, but like the other benefit to this too is not only can you map out where your shading is going to go, you can map out the the harshness of the harshness of the shading. So prime example would be the Barbarian, right where his pectoral muscle is, where it meets into the shoulder and into the arm, kind of right into the armpit there. Like that's going to be a harsh shade. So for the most part, like what I should have done is I should have drawn a line to map out or to sketch out the chest muscle, and then I should have drawn like a few lines going away from it, where I knew, you know, that was where the shading was going to go, and that way I just didn't have to think about it. Another situation where it would have been much more beneficial was like where the abs are, the top of the shoulder. When you see the shading video, it's going to make more sense, but they're much more lighter shades. And if I would have, instead of drawing harsh lines to convey that, or you know what, now that I think about it, the cheek, I think, is where I added a harsh line. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. There's like a dimple. Situations like that, I should have done like a couple of little lines to convey that was just going to be shading. There was no harshness to it. I mean, there is a bit of a harshness to it, but in the overall drawing, like I'm looking at it now, but I could have, instead of using a straight line, because those always screw me up. Seeing a straight line where shading is supposed to be always messes me up, and then I lose track, and then I have to figure it out on the go. And that's essentially where I start losing traction with the drawing, and I lose focus on what I'm actually drawing and the overall grand scheme of things. But yeah, aside from shading, the other reason why it's very good to I think I already mentioned it now I think about it. Oh well. Aside from shading, the other reason why it's good to map out your drawing is to figure out the different materials that your characters are wearing, or the different textures within your drawing. For example, certain parts they're going to have cloth, right? Like the maiden's dress, the wizard's cloak and hat, the wrestling trunks of the barbarian. Like those are going to be cloth, and you can kind of use this technique almost like a legend in a map. So if I want to make sure I remember to make those cloth, I'm going to put cross hatching, right? And it doesn't have to be like an overall just cross hatch it all, right? Just put cross hatching in the spot where you know the shading is going to be within that material, right? Because with skin, you want it to be like not glistening, but you want it to be smooth, right? So generally I won't use cross hatching. You can, but I generally don't, just because I want to make sure I'm conveying different materials. With leather, I mean, leather's just skin, unless you're thinking about suede. Then I'd make it, I don't know, like the side of a pencil style shading. And with skin, if you're trying to map it out, I would use a blending stump, just because you know you have that smoothness to it. With hair, it's just straight lines. It's nothing fancy. Like all you're doing for yourself is just pre-planning, right? That's essentially all this line work is just pre-planning. So that when you go to do shading, you don't have to think about, oh shit, this isn't fitting right. And that's, yeah. that's just something that I've learned from this drawing, which is something like I know I didn't do it perfect, but um, I'm going to try and implement it later on in different drawings. So, but yeah. No, one of the other things too that I honestly love, and this is going back to the wizard and his non-existence of anatomy, um, is that I love how freeing it is to be able to draw something this ridiculous and feel comfortable with it, knowing that you can still see it's a person, right? And it's one of the things that drives me nuts whenever I go on Instagram, and I mean I say that with a grain of salt, like it doesn't actually drive me nuts, but it's just something I'm noticing is whenever I go on Instagram and I'm looking at other people's artwork for either inspiration or because I'm bored or whatever, it's always the same damn thing. Like, it doesn't matter what you are actually looking at, whether it be a knight, um, two people, or anything like that, or like, especially in anime, now I think about it, like a lot of people draw anime, there's no diversity within their drawing. Um, they're just always the same style of character. And what I mean by that is like mainly body types, and facial features as well. Like they don't adjust the eyes to make them look a little different um, from another character, right? Or any previous drawings that they have, unless they're mimicking, or sorry, unless they're drawing portraits of like people, right? And it forces them to actually do that. So, but like when it comes to drawing something out of your head, right? I find that we get so comfortable drawing a particular thing, and because we get so comfortable with that, we don't want to change it, which ultimately hinders you as an artist, because you should be able to modify what your idea of one thing is, right? Like if you look in the world, nothing is ever the same as its, you know, um, real life, not counterpart, but equivalent. Um, like let's take trees for example. You're never going to find two oak trees that are the same. You're never going to find two pieces of stone that are the same. You're going to find their equivalent, like two river stones. River stones are very round. They're not going to be the same round, right? They're one's going to be slightly more oval than the other. One's going to have maybe a slight chip taken out of it. It's just things like this that people toss to the wind, and I like, I I do it all the time too, but it's something I'm trying to teach myself not to do. Um, it's just something that I feel I know I know I need to work on it, but it's something that's kind of lacking within the sort of art community um, that I'm exposed to. And by what I mean by that is like Instagram, Facebook, wherever I'm looking at art. I know in like games nowadays, like they're all the same type of person. Um, like if you're designing a warrior, he is going to have the body of this barbarian, right? And like he's going to be a macho. If you look at him the wrong way, he's busting open your face just by a gaze of his eyes. Um, and if you're drawing like a wizard, he's going to have the majestic beard of a lifetime, and he's going to be smoking out of a pipe, right? Well, I guess Dumbledore didn't smoke out of a pipe, but he still had a majestic beard. All wizards have majestic beards. Um, but it's like these comfortable, confident things that we've gotten so used to that I feel like they should be able to break out of that, right? Um, and as an artist, you should be comfortable being able to do that, right? And not feeling insecure that I didn't draw this right, right? Like, um, I don't know, fantasy games are so prone to that, right? You have a ranger. If you look up a ranger on Google, right, as in like a fantasy ranger, guaranteed you find 50 photos. Right? If you just look up straight 50 photos of it, you find um, a hooded quiver full of arrows, bow, small sword, maybe an axe, maybe. Very light armor. Done. That is your ranger. They're, doesn't need to be an elf, but guaranteed they're gonna be an elf or a human. Um, Nothing else can fit that. So, like I said, it just drives me nuts that's kind of what it's come to, in a sense. Like you're not gonna find some like obese barbarian who like in a RPG or fantasy game. You're not gonna find some obese barbarian who literally tanks everything, right? Or like an extremely skinny barbarian who you wouldn't place your bets on in a fight, right? Like they're just so niche that way, I suppose. Um, but yeah, so I think that's definitely one thing to consider, and that's why I love doing this type of drawing and breaking out of that reality sense. Like it's always good to go back to reality so you understand the anatomy of things, and you understand, you know, what things really look like. What I mean by that, I'm not trying to contradict myself of what I was saying, but like you're not going to find eyes, you know, one sitting at the top left of your forehead and another one sitting in the bottom right cheek, right? And then a nose is somehow in between that. Um, just to like make sure that you remember, like the whole idea of going back to anatomy, in my opinion, aside from, I really enjoy drawing very realistic things, is just to understand the mapping out of whatever you are drawing, whether that be a building or a person, animal, plant, you name it. So, but yeah. So I think I'm going to cut her there. I really hope this helped you guys, and thank you for tuning in. If you guys could favorite, and subscribe. Come on, fuck! First time I've ever done this. If you guys could, whatever. You guys know the drill. Well, I guess it wouldn't be a drill. Fuck me. Oh well. This is the point where you tell me to shut up. So, yeah. Take care.